Lawmakers decided that with the uncertainty of the country's economic future, inflation, and a possible looming recession, they cannot risk giving so much money away to Massachusetts residents. Although nothing is set in stone regarding Governor Baker's announcement on the tax rebate checks, Senator Velas believes it will be a credit added to 2022 taxes instead of a check in the mail. Before the change in decision, the Baker administration predicted that taxpayers could expect to see 7% of their 2021 income taxes returned, translating to around $250 for an individual earning $75,000. Thousands of dollars have already been approved by President Biden in the White House. These programs will help many Americans that are experiencing financial difficulties and affording basic necessities. The Federal Reserve is rapidly raising interest rates in order to fight inflation, announcing another sharp upward bump July 27th. And while no one likes inflation, Congress and the President must acknowledge that the sudden rise in rates can negatively affect many Americans. Rising interest rates don't affect everyone with the same way, but borrowers will pay more, and with home prices in many places already through the roof, those higher payments will cripple the ability of many people to buy a home. Nationally, the rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage has nearly doubled in the past year, and that was before the Fed's latest announcement. This will most severely affect low and moderate income families who are already struggling with the cost of housing and who generally don't have enough saved or interest or invested to get much interest on the home. Higher mortgage rates mean higher monthly payments, pricing even many middle-class families out of home ownership. While this will likely depress home prices at some point, prices have risen nationally in the first half of 2022 despite rising mortgage rates.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to celebrate a win for American farmers, ranchers, and agriculture producers. Fertilizer prices have been skyrocketing for over a year now, and with the cost of urea ammonium nitrate in particular rising at record highs. Since March, I have been urging the U.S. International Trade Commission to suspend duties on UAN imports from Trinidad and Tobago, and this week they did just that. On July 18th, the U.S. International Trade Commission rejected imposing final duties on urea ammonium nitrate, UAN, in its determination that anti-dumping activities surrounding UAN fertilizers in Trinidad and Tobago did not harm the U.S. fertilizer industry. With this determination, the ITC has finally responded to my 3 letters dating back to March, the legislation that I introduced in that same month, and my testimony before them.
The progressive wing of the Democratic Party, as well as Chuck Schumer and Warnock, who faces a tough re-election bid this fall, were among those pushing for Biden to forgive $50,000 per borrower. Throughout the public and private pressure campaign, the White House has touted its efforts to help with student loan debt through its work with the public service, loan forgiveness, and the income-driven repayment programs. Shocking news, everybody. President Biden will be announcing his brand new plan to help millions of Americans financially. Lawmakers in the House and Senate are now meeting to discuss the future stimulus package. Some GOP lawmakers are insistent that this relief be more targeted. And now, here's some exciting news. Biden said today to announce that he will forgive $10,000 in student loan debt for millions of borrowers who fall below an income cap. After weighing executive action for months, the president is expected to reveal his long-awaited decision. The action is also expected to include extending until January a moratorium on federal student loan payments, which was implemented during the crisis, set to expire at the end of this month. Biden has said he will make a decision by August 31st, and Biden faces increasing pressure from progressive Democrats to cancel and even
Senator Bennett for a very important set of questions, and we have such fond remembrances of our colleague who served on this committee, Senator Salazar. Senator Stabenow, the chair of the Agriculture Committee, our go-to person.
Well, thank you, Chairman Wyden and Ranking Member Crapo for the hearing, and welcome, Mr. McHale. We're so glad to have you in front of us and to have your nomination in front of us. We definitely need a chief agriculture negotiator as soon as possible. I know that from the Agriculture Committee standpoint, with myself and Senator Bozeman, we have been urging that this happen as quickly as possible. And I know with the breadth of knowledge that you have, what you bring to the role from your career working on a wide range of issues at USDA, that it's incredibly important that we can.
Chuck Schumer and other top Democrats are now urging Biden to go as big as possible in providing financial aid to the American people. So far, $750 fourth stimulus checks have already been approved, and that's for low to middle income households. Now, as of right now, 8 states across America are getting ready to roll out stimulus checks this month, and Minnesota is one of them. The direct payments are designed to help residents as inflation grows in the United States. Last week, the Commerce Department announced a second consecutive quarter of economic contraction, which is what many analysts use as a simple definition for a recession. Either way, soaring inflation has left many Americans struggling with food, gas, and housing prices. While U.S. officials debate over the economy, governors are taking the situation into their own hands and handing out stimulus checks to help alleviate some of the pressure put on by the residents. Delaware, Florida, Georgia, and Hawaii are all sending out payments this month. Certain Minnesota frontline workers are eligible to receive a one-time payment of $750, including emergency responders, healthcare staff, court officials, and retail workers. Almost 1.2 million workers applied for Minnesota's frontline bonus checks by the July 22nd deadline. The large number of applicants who are approved could shrink the $750 payout. Governor Tim Walz has also called for a special session of the legislature to pass a proposed income tax rebate of $1,000 for individual filers earning less than $165,000 and $2,000 for couples earning less than $275,000.
Your order was cheaper than everyone else's. Maybe you weren't as hungry, or the restaurant the group picked was more expensive than you could afford, so you were selective about what you ordered. Then when the check comes, someone suggests the group split it evenly. Now what's your immediate reaction? You're upset, of course, because you ordered the salad, not the filet mignon, or you drank water, not the expensive bottle of wine. You ordered what you wanted, and they ordered what they wanted. You shouldn't be on the hook for their cost. Sadly, Madam President, this illustration is far too real, as last month Joe Biden announced that he would cancel billions of dollars in student loans. Now let's be clear, he isn't canceling student debt. No, he's transferring that debt to every American taxpayer. Now, a construction worker in Florida is having to foot the bill for the loans of a Harvard grad, which they voluntarily accepted for the education they received. So here's what Democrats are trying to say to that construction worker. You didn't go to college? Democrats don't care. You'll pay the debt of lawyers and doctors. And you'll pay for those who want PhDs in poetry. Talk about poetic injustice. You went to community college or a state school and worked to graduate debt-free. Tough luck. Joe Biden wants you to pay for the advanced degrees of the privileged few. Your tax dollars are now the money pot for other people's student debt. Of course, Joe Biden's plan doesn't even begin to address the real reason of rising higher education costs. That is universities' decades-long practice of unnecessarily raising tuition. As governor of Florida, I addressed that problem.
Where was he then? Well, he endorsed the Trump administration's plan to cut taxes for corporations, and he celebrated those tax breaks for the richest among us. He wasn't worried about how taxpayers would pay that off, not a word about the fairness for all the people who would bear that burden, so long as the benefits went mostly to the rich and the powerful. Senator Scott has basically laid it all out there for America to see, and that's the difference. Helping billionaires or helping working families. And that difference pretty much sums up Republican and Democratic difference.